The rain had not stopped for 3 days, turning the tiny town into a grey blur. But Daniel still remembered every shade of the storm that lived inside him far longer than the clouds outside. On that cold evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, he stood at the doorway of his modest home, staring at the silhouette of a woman drenched beneath the flickering streetlight. She looked like a ghost from a past he had tried to bury, a past that had once held promises of forever, and instead left him alone with a newborn in his arms. Her shoulders trembled as she stepped closer, her eyes glistening with a guilt too heavy to hide. And in a voice nearly swallowed by the storm, she whispered words he thought he would never hear again. "Forgive me, let's raise our daughters together." The sound of it shattered the walls he had spent years building around his heart. Asterisk. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. Your support helps us bring more life-changing stories to the world. Asterisk. Daniel's life had not always been defined by heartbreak. Once he had been a simple, hopeful man who worked in a small carpentry shop, creating furniture with hands that carried both strength and gentleness. Then came Alina, radiant, ambitious, breathtakingly confident, the daughter of a powerful business magnate who controlled half the city's industries. She lived far above the world he knew, surrounded by wealth, prestige, and expectations that could suffocate anyone who dared fall behind. But for a time, she let herself fall into Daniel's arms, into the life he offered, and they created a little bubble of happiness that neither social class nor money could dampen. At least, that's what he believed. Asterisk. Everything changed the moment her father discovered their relationship. He struck a blow Daniel never saw coming, threatening to cut her off, to ruin him, to erase every dream she'd worked for. Alina had ambitions bigger than her father's empire, and although Daniel tried to shield her from the pressure, he could sense the conflict burning inside her. When she discovered she was pregnant, the world she balanced on her shoulders finally broke. Daniel remembered the night she left. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she didn't even kiss him goodbye. She simply placed her engagement ring on the kitchen table and walked out of his life, leaving him with a newborn girl 2 months later, when her assistant quietly delivered the baby with nothing but a signed note relinquishing all responsibility. Daniel never forgot how that tiny baby clung to his shirt, unaware that the world had just robbed her of a mother. Asterisk. Raising little Moran alone had been both the hardest and most beautiful experience of his life. He worked double shifts, slept in scattered hours, and stretched every last dollar to ensure she never went hungry. When Marin turned 4 and began asking about her mother, Daniel felt a pain deeper than any physical wound, yet he always answered with gentleness. He told her that her mother was someone who loved her in ways she didn't yet know how to show, and that someday maybe she would understand. Over time, Marin grew into a bright, compassionate girl with shimmering brown eyes and a smile that could calm storms. She was the reason Daniel never fully broke. Even on nights when loneliness wrapped around him like a tightrope, asterisk. Nothing in his world prepared him for the moment Alina returned. Asterisk. She had become a global name. Alina Kessler, the Millionairess investor who appeared on magazine covers, who ran charities, companies, and events. She was a woman built of steel and diamond, admired and feared in equal measure. But the woman standing at his door that rainy night was none of those things. She looked undone, fragile, and almost human. Daniel recognized exhaustion, regret, and a soul searching for something she lost long ago. Asterisk. Her return was not a coincidence. Months earlier, she had discovered that she had a second daughter, another child she had unknowingly abandoned. It turned out that the assistant who had delivered Marin had also taken in another infant. The twin sister separated at birth due to Alina's terrifying panic and confusion. The assistant, who passed away recently, had confessed the truth in her final letter to Alina. That revelation shattered the world Alina had built her success upon and forced her to confront the cruelty she had tried to outrun. Daniel listened as she explained everything. Her words were soaked in trembling remorse, revealing how her life of glitz and power had become a cage built from regrets she could no longer suppress. After the letter, she had spent weeks searching for the second daughter, only to learn she had been abandoned at an orphanage shortly after birth. The girl Ariel was alive, but deeply traumatized from years of neglect and instability. Alina had taken custody of Ariel, but the child did not speak, did not smile, did not trust the woman who now begged Daniel for help. Daniel's heart twisted. He felt anger, or justified anger that she could simply return and expect forgiveness. But he also saw something else, a broken woman seeking redemption, not for herself, but for her daughters. And despite everything, Daniel knew deep inside that his children deserved every chance at a complete life, even if the path was complicated and painful. The following weeks were an emotional journey for all of them. Alina visited regularly, sitting in the small living room of the home she once considered beneath her. She learned to braid Marin's hair, to help with school projects, to listen to her stories about school and friends. Slowly, Marin warmed up to the mother she never knew she missed. Ariel, however, was a different story. She flinched at loud noises, avoided eye contact, and preferred to sit in corners clutching a worn blanket. Alina tried everything: gentle words, small gifts, time and patience, but Ariel remained locked inside her own guarded world. Daniel found himself stepping in more than he expected. He guided Alina gently, showing her how to approach Ariel with softer tones and slower movements. He demonstrated how to create small, safe routines, how to sit near Ariel without demanding a response, how to let the girl see that this new presence in her life was not a threat. Nights turned into weeks, and their interactions grew from tense exchanges to conversations rich with vulnerability. Daniel saw the woman he once loved, stripped of her armor, learning to rebuild motherhood from the ground up. One evening, Ariel crawled onto Alina's lap without being asked. Tears fell freely down Alina's face as she held her fragile daughter, and something healed slowly, gently, profoundly. Daniel watched from across the room, realizing that perhaps some wounds, no matter how deep, were not beyond repair. But healing was not a straight path. News of Alina's sudden interest in family reached tabloids, igniting speculation that she had gone soft or was hiding something damaging to her empire. Investors panicked, board members questioned her decisions, and her father, still a powerful force, demanded she abandon the mistake that could tarnish the family name. When she refused, her reputation took heavy blows, and several of her companies suffered backlash. For the first time, Daniel witnessed Alina choosing her children over the empire she had once sacrificed them for. She gave up her CEO position, stepping away from the corridors of power she once fought to dominate. Her father disowned her publicly, stripping her of privileges and status. Alina walked away from it all, not with bitterness, but with a quiet dignity that surprised even Daniel. It was during this time of collapse and rebuilding that Daniel noticed something shifting inside him. The anger that had fueled him for years began to fade, replaced by a hesitant warmth he fought hard to ignore. He saw Alina washing dishes in his tiny kitchen, kneeling to help the girls with homework, showing up every single day even when she was exhausted, overwhelmed, or heartbroken. She wasn't the same woman who had left him years ago. She had changed in ways that couldn't be faked. One late autumn evening, after the girls had fallen asleep on the sofa, Alina stood outside beneath the golden glow of the porch light. The wind carried the crisp scent of fallen leaves, and her eyes shimmered with emotions she couldn't hide. That was when she whispered the words that marked a turning point, not just for her, but for all of them. "Forgive me, let's raise our daughters together." Daniel didn't answer right away. Instead, he thought of the years of lonely nights, the pain of abandonment, the struggles he faced alone, the birthdays she missed, the tears he wiped, the meals he cooked, the giggles and lullabies he carried in his heart for two people. But he also thought of the Alina standing before him, the woman stripped of vanity, of status, of pride, a woman aching to make things right. And when she finally looked away, as if expecting rejection, Daniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. It was not an answer, but it was a beginning. The true transformation came slowly, like dawn breaking over a long winter. They made a conscious choice to co-parent first, to rebuild trust gradually, to communicate honestly. The girls thrived with the new stability. Maren blossomed with joy, and Ariel, once silent and fearful, began speaking in soft, hesitant words. She clung to both of them, finally believing that this family was real, that no one would abandon her again. Months turned into a year. Their lives intertwined, not out of forced responsibility, but genuine healing. One spring afternoon, Daniel found Alina teaching the girls how to plant flowers in the backyard. The sun painted her face in warm light, her laughter ringing through the air like something new and unrecognizable happiness. Something clicked inside him. He realized he had forgiven her long before he admitted it to himself. She wasn't the woman who abandoned them. She was the woman who fought her way back, and she stayed. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness. Your engagement helps us reach more people with stories of hope, healing, and humanity. Before the ending, here is a special request. Please comment below what part of the story moved you the most. In time, Daniel and Alina built a new chapter together, one filled with humility, respect, patience, and a love strengthened by every mistake they had conquered. Their daughters grew up knowing that broken families can be mended, that forgiveness is powerful, and that no one is beyond a second chance when they are willing to fight for it. And as they stood together, watching their daughters run across the yard under a golden sunset, Daniel finally understood that sometimes the most beautiful stories are those written from the pieces of a shattered past, pieced back together with courage, love, and a heart willing to forgive.